Hey everybody! I hope you're enjoying your last official small group of 2020. I think that's kind of crazy. I wanted to start out my talk by asking you guys a question. Have you ever experienced something that was so good, so epic, so incredible, an experience that was so amazing that you had a hard time, difficulty trying to explain it to other people? Like, the best way I could describe this question is like when you've had the best pizza of your life and you're trying to explain it to your friend and you're like, you know what, you just have to go and try it, or you just had to have been there, or you had one of those really amazing nights with a group of friends and you guys were laughing and having such a good time, and it was just like this like weird experience to where when somebody asks you like what you did the other day and like you're trying to explain why it was so great and amazing, and you just end up being like, you know what, like I can't explain this, you just had to be there. I mean, I think there's just some things in life that just can't be explained, and you have to just experience it for yourself to be able to understand it. So I want you guys to pause this video and discuss in your groups what is something like a song, a game, sporting event, concert that you had to experience for yourself to be able to really appreciate it. Okay, cool. So during the Christmas season, it's almost impossible to not hear about the birth of Jesus. I mean, yes, you'll hear plenty about Santa Claus, plenty about reindeer, plenty about lights and presents and trees and all of the fun Christmas things. But the foundational message of Christmas is about how God came to earth as a helpless baby. And even if you aren't a churchy person, or you aren't really sure about what to believe about the whole story, or maybe you've never even heard the whole story of the birth of Jesus, you can't go very long without seeing a nativity scene or a manger or lights that try to explain how incredible the meaning of the season is. Maybe you've noticed that people get super into it, like we're getting super into it with the fun live nativity scene that we're going to be doing on the 24th. That was totally a shameless plug. You should totally come to our live nativity scene on Christmas Eve and or help us out with it if you want to volunteer. Anyways, that's beside the point. I'm getting off track. But maybe you've heard people try to explain it to you that because of the birth of Jesus, you can know how amazing God is. Because of Christmas, you can know how powerful God is. And you hear all of the explanations and all of the reasons, but for you, you just don't really get it, and you're not really sure if you get it. And to be honest, there's some really good reasons why you might not get it. One reason you might not get or believe it is because of the type of people who are telling you the story. I mean, maybe you've heard about how life-changing the birth of Jesus is from people whose lives don't look very life-changed. Maybe the people who believe this story don't really seem to treat people all that well, and they're kind of judgmental towards others, and you see that, and I think I believe that that's pretty opposite of who Jesus was and what he came to teach. But I think that also kind of makes you think, if believing in the story doesn't change how you live because you're seeing it in that person, then why would I believe it? And it doesn't make it sound very credible. It doesn't make it sound like something that I would want to believe in. Or maybe you've heard the story of Jesus' birth explained and how it communicates how good God is, but you look around at the circumstances in your life and it doesn't seem that God is very good, because right now life might be hard and maybe it hasn't turned out the way that you thought it would or the way that you hoped it would. And this has been such a difficult year for so many people in this world, and you look at how many people have lost their jobs, maybe you know of people who have lost loved ones, and it can be so hard to believe in the explanation of that there is that there is a good and loving God in this world in the midst of all of that. And maybe that's your story today. Maybe life has hit you hard, and listening to the explanation of God demonstrating his closeness and goodness to you by coming in the form of a helpless baby doesn't seem to add up. And so I want you guys to take another second to pause this video and discuss questions 2, 3, and 4 and come back to me. Cool, welcome back. So no matter what you've heard before, whether you care or you don't care, whether you believe or not believe, I'm asking you for the next 10 minutes to, as I read the story of Jesus, the story of the birth of Jesus, to allow yourself to rethink all of this. Because this isn't just a story. It's not like hearing about Santa Claus. It's not some fictional thing that we get little kids to believe in on Christmas. Guys, this is history. These were real people with lives and who had real problems and real fears. And these were people who had doubts and questions about who God was and how God worked in the world, just like you and I. And the people in this story are people who were not expecting anything particularly special or unique to happen to them. They weren't expecting God to show up in this particular night in history. And guys, he did. So as you listen to this, think about yourself. Put yourself into the story. How would you have responded to this? What would you have thought if you were in this story? What would you have done? And so the story starts in this way. So tonight we're in the story of Luke and we're reading the Christmas story. So we're starting in chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world." So this was the first census that took place while Quirinius, I have no idea how to say that, was a governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Jesus went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem in the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for a baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. Guys, because there was no guest room available for them. Let me ask you this. If you were the God of the universe and you wanted to show up on earth and announce your presence to the world for the first time, how would you do it? My guess is we would at least show up dressed. I mean, we would at least show up and make sure we weren't in a position to be hurt or humiliated. But when God, the God of the universe, made his arrival, he picked showing up as a baby. He picked showing up as naked and small, helpless, and completely dependent on others for his own survival. And that was how God chose to show up in the world for the very first time. After 300 years of silence from God, that's how he chose to show up. For almost all of human history, people thought God was angry and distant and someone that had to be appeased. But then God actually showed up in our world as an infant to show us that he was humble and that he was kind. And he showed up to let us know that he really does get us and understand us. God showed up in the world just like we showed up in the world, helpless, naked, and completely dependent on others for our survival. God himself experienced what it was like to be human, what it was like to be you. The Christmas story is a remarkable picture of what God is like, guys. God wanted to put himself in your shoes. He chose to show up in skin and bone like you and experience all the feelings that you have felt. Because in his life, Jesus would experience betrayal. He would get frustrated at things and people. He would see one of his best friends die and have to mourn over that. He would know what it was like to be rejected by others. The God of the universe would know what it was like to be rejected by others. And he would also know what it was like to have a close-knit group of friends. He would experience the joys of the world around him. And guys, he knew how to throw a party. I mean, come on. He really knew how to experience everything like a human. But if you have ever wondered if God knows you and if God loves you, if you have ever wondered if God understands you, and if you have ever wondered if God knows what it's like to live on this planet, he does. Because this is history we're talking about here. It happened. The Christmas story is proof. And the gospel writer Luke goes on. So we're jumping back into verse 8. And so it says, "And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger.' And suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, 'Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those to those on whom his favor rests.' And then the angels had left them and gone into heaven. The shepherds said to one another, 'Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about.'" So in here it says the quote, "good news of great joy." Now, I really love that phrase because I don't know what you've heard about God before, but I've heard things being said that doesn't really sound or look like good news of great joy for all people. And I just don't think that's true, because the message that God brings to us in this time of year is exactly what the angel said it was. Good news, great joy for everybody. And showing up and making his announcement to a group of shepherds outside the walls of the city God could not have been making his point clearer, which is this: God's love is for all people at all times and in all places. And so the shepherds were one of the lowest of the low people in society back in that time. That's why they were outside of the fields. They were too poor, they were too unshowered, they were too improper for regular society. And this is who God chooses to show up to. Guys, you can't explain a God like that. It's unexplainable. And that he loves all of us and has experienced exactly what it is to be like us. The reason I believe the Christmas story is true is because no one could make this up. I mean, people would never make up a story that God showing up like this, because no one would believe it. So when the angels deliver the message like this to a group of people like the shepherds, they have to go and experience Jesus for themselves. And if God has done this, if God is like this, if God has showed up like this, then they have to go. Because that's insane. They have to go see for themselves. So the shepherds looked at one another and said, "Let's go and see this thing that has happened. Let's experience God for ourselves." And they did. And it changed them forever. And so it goes on to say, so the shepherds, they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in a manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told to them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which they were just as they had been told. Now, I don't know how you feel about what you've heard today. Maybe you believe it all. Maybe this is nothing new, and this is just another really great story, a telling of the Christmas story. Maybe you believe none of it. Maybe you feel something, maybe you feel nothing. No matter where you land tonight, I want to encourage you to do something nobody would have expected in the first century. To follow the examples of the shepherds, to follow the examples of the lowliest of low, to do what they did because God showed up to them and told them, go see for yourself. Guys, go see for yourself. Now I want you to pause this video and discuss in your groups, what does it look like to go see for yourself, even if you aren't sure what you believe about God? Welcome back. So sometimes we need to just simply go see for ourselves. We can't let someone else's experience tell us what to believe. We need to experience it for ourselves. We can't just think what they think or take their word for it. And how do you do that? How do you continue to experience Jesus in this season? So I have two things that we can do. One is we could keep showing up. No matter what you believe right now, I'm so glad you're here. We want you to know that we have a place for you in this ministry just as you are and just as you've come tonight and any night. And so make the commitment to keep showing up. The more you see, hear, and experience, the more you might discover about the God who wants to come and have you see for yourself. And two, ask a question. Ask many questions. Ask a million questions. What is it that you're wondering about? What is it that makes all of this hard to believe? What do you want to know more about? What do you wonder about? Ask somebody, ask a pastor, a parent, a leader, a trusted friend, and have a conversation to keep exploring, to keep learning and discovering and seeing for yourself. Because I want you to know and experience the love of Jesus. That is literally the reason why I do this, is because I want you to know and discover, or to know and experience and discover the love of Jesus. I want you to experience it for yourself and then think for yourself and then decide for yourself if Jesus is who he says he is. Okay. I have another announcement that I'm going to make with Casey. So hold on one second. Hello from all the way back there.
Hello.
We have a super fun and exciting announcement to make to you guys.
Yay! So, some fun updates going on here. I know that we've all been in quarantine and a lot of our lives have been put on pause, but believe it or not, there's been a whole lot of stuff happening around church behind the scenes. And so, way back in May of this year, I was actually offered a change of position here at Anona, which has been pretty exciting. And so what that looks like for me is I went from being obviously your director of student ministries to director of family ministries,
Woo-hoo!
which means I get to now be in the place of overseeing all of our family ministries from our little ones in the nursery all through our young adults in college. And I get to help all of those age groups and support all of those directors of those ministries stay connected and have just a really good strategy for caring for our young people like you guys. And that has been really cool. And so for the past few months, I have been working with Megan to get her ready to be in a place where she would be able to say that she is going to take ownership of student ministry on her own. And we're excited to tell you guys that time has come and that starting in January, Megan is going to officially be the director of student ministries. So yay for Miss Megan. She has felt called to student ministries since she was a student. And this is a very special moment for her. And we want you guys to know that because that's a change that obviously affects you. It's going to make things look just a little bit different for a little while. So you guys are going to notice that in January, Megan is going to run the show all by herself. It is just going to be her. Yep. She's going to do it without me for a month, but don't worry, I'll be here in spirit. You can always call me, text me, pop in the office with your mask on, get your temperature taken, and I will always be here. But for a month, Megan is going to run the show by herself and really see what it means to be a youth director all on her own. So that's super exciting. And then from here on out, you guys, Megan is going to be the point person for student ministry. She's going to be the one that is spearheading everything, that's leading you guys on trips. Of course, I am always going to be around as long as I am here, but she is your go-to girl from now on. And I want you guys to know that this is not me leaving, that I am still very, very much employed by Anona. My position just changed. And so now I just get to walk with maybe your younger siblings or your younger cousins and your older siblings or your older friends in college. I get to really help be a part of all of their faith journeys, including yours. And so I want you to hear that I am still honored to be a part of your lives, your faith journeys, and I am always, always, always here. I'm just here in a different capacity now because now we're going to see what Megan can bring to our student ministry, and I'm excited to see all of the just improvements and fun things that she is going to do with you guys. And
yeah,
that's our big announcement.
I am so excited to be able to officially be your youth director. I have had a calling for years to be able to do this, and so to be able to do it in a place that I can call home with you guys, amazing students, I am just over the moon about it. So if we have not had the chance to get together one-on-one, hang out, get to know each other, my door is always open. Please text me, message me on Instagram. I would love to go get coffee, get lunch, do anything with you guys. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your small group.
And let us know if you have any questions.
Yes.
Always here, because I know that transitions can be confusing and complicated, and we are here for any and all conversations. But we are excited about this one. This is a good one. So let us know if you have any questions. And now back to your small group discussions.
Pew.